Canelo Alvarez signs a 2-fight deal with Dazn. The first one will be against Dmitry Bivol on May 7th. The second one will be the trilogy fight with Gennady Golovkin on September 17th. So we're back to the Cinco de Mayo Mexican holiday schedule for Canelo Alvarez. Now, of course, Eddie Hearn is ecstatic. He's over the moon. He hasn't been having a good time of it lately because he's lost a couple purse bids, of course, for the Dillian Whyte Tyson Fury fight. Also for the Andrade Zach Parker fight. He lost that purse bid to Queensbury, both of them. And I guess he was not too concerned about those purse bids because he was more concerned about signing Canelo Alvarez. And I'm going to talk in a separate video about why Eddie Hearn has been making me laugh, to be honest, with some of the nonsense that's coming out of his mouth with regards to loyalty and so on and so forth, because this guy just puts his attention on the fighter that's going to make him the most money. Well, where's the loyalty in that? You see, loyalty is a reciprocal thing. It's a two-way street. But with Eddie Hearn and with any other promoter, once a fighter is no longer bringing in the money, once they no longer have much commercial mileage left in them, then all of a sudden, they're not picking up the fighter's phone calls, they're not calling the fighter, and so on. They're not championing the fighter as much as they used to. You see the way that Eddie Hearn used to behave around Anthony Joshua? That's the way he behaves around Canelo now. And he doesn't even have Canelo on a long-term deal. He's doing these fight-by-fight or 2-fight deals with Alvarez. And that's what he's got right now. He's over the moon. He's ecstatic. The Dmitry Bivol fight should be interesting. I think that there's a lot of people out there who believe that Bivol is actually the most dangerous light heavyweight for Canelo. Many people believe he's even more dangerous for him than Artur Beterbiev, because Dmitry Bivol is a fast, mobile boxer with a good jab who's tough. And so this represents something quite different to somebody like a Caleb Plant, for example. So, yeah, going to be interesting to see how that fight goes. As I mentioned in the previous video, Bivol doesn't have the profile of some of the PBC guys like Charlo, etc., and Benavidez, of course. And he doesn't have the profile of Artur Beterbiev at light heavyweight, quite frankly. So, yeah, Dmitry Bivol is kind of a dark horse, I would say. I'm not sure how well that's going to do for DAZN by way of subscriptions or pay-per-views, if they're going to put it on pay-per-view in the United States. Not sure how well that's going to do. But, of course, it is a foot in the door with regards to the light heavyweight division. He's already been light heavyweight champion, of course, when he beat Sergey Kovalev. But now you have to imagine the goal is to become undisputed at 175. So this would be a step in that direction against Dmitry Bivol. Can he do it? Or will we see a big upset where Canelo Alvarez gets beat by Dmitry Bivol? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And of course, the second fight, assuming Golovkin gets past Murata, will be against Gennady Golovkin September 17th to sort the trilogy and the controversy around the first 2 fights out. Now, Golovkin has been very inactive over the past few years. His last fight was against that Polish guy. I can't remember his name. He knocked him down several times. I think that was his last fight. Since then, I don't think he's fought. Now he's going to fight Murata, it would seem, in Japan. And you'd imagine on paper, Golovkin should be able to beat him, but it's boxing. Strange things happen. Golovkin was beaten. He had all sorts of trouble, and a lot of people thought he lost to Derevenchenko. If he's having trouble with Derevenchenko, is there a chance that Murata might be able to actually turn him over? He is about 40 years old now, so he's pretty long in the tooth. If he gets past that, Canelo Alvarez, September 17th, most people, including people who felt that Golovkin, won both the first 2 Canelo fights, many of them think that Canelo will actually stop Golovkin this time. And I think part of that is based upon his age, of course, and how he looked against Derevenchenko, where he was getting hurt with multiple body shots. Okay, hurt multiple times with body shots, So, yeah, let's see how it goes. That fight will be lucrative for DAZN because Canelo's crowd, Canelo's fans, they know Golovkin. They know that rivalry. So that, of course, will be lucrative. When you compare it to the PBC deal that he was being offered with Benavidez and Charlo, I feel like that would have been better for Canelo's profile. I think that would have generated more interest, certainly in the US. They would have generated a lot more interest around Benavidez. I think Benavidez has got a decent fan base and he's a young guy. Charlo, of course, the Charlo brothers generate a lot of interest. I'm not saying they're huge superstars or anything, but I think they generate more interest than someone like Bivol. And probably not as much as Golovkin, but more than Bivol. So I don't know, maybe it'll be a similar thing in terms of the amount of pay-per-views it does or subscriptions or whatever. What I'm trying to say is maybe Golovkin more than compensates for the lack of fans that Bivol has in the US. Maybe Golovkin more than compensates for that. Maybe Golovkin, and in terms of the interest he brings to a fight, is the same amount as, let's say, Benavidez and Charlo combined. Is it? I don't know. I'm just putting that possibility out there. You guys let me know what you think. Anyway, Canelo, 2-fight deal, Dazn, Eddie Hearn over the moon. And I'm going to speak in like I say, separate video about Hearn and about the pressures that may be on him behind the scenes from his broadcast partner, Dazn. And he, again, maybe is he being instructed or is he just using it as part of his own personal strategy to forget about winning purse bids for Andrade versus Parker and for Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury, even though he put in a good bid? Maybe he's been instructed not to bid too hard for those things, or maybe it's just in his mind, he needs to secure Canelo. That's his main focus, and these other things can take a back seat. And again, that shows you that this loyalty stuff is nonsense. He's making the guy who's going to bring him in the most money the priority. And that's okay from a business perspective. It makes perfect sense. It's logical to do that. But don't then start talking to fighters about loyalty. Don't start doing that. Seriously. It's like recently he was talking about Kell Brook, and he admitted that he felt slighted by the fact that Brook went and did a deal without him for the Terence Crawford fight. He felt slighted by that. He felt kind of annoyed by that. It's like, Eddie, you are prioritizing fighters in your stable. One day, a certain guy's your best friend, and then all of a sudden he's not making as much money, and you're not answering his calls so much, you're not calling him up so much. Now you're Canelo's best friend. It's like you do that all the time. How can you then turn around and say, oh, you felt slighted by Kell Brook doing something else with someone else? Maybe, for him, it was better because he could make himself the priority. Yeah? Because maybe you weren't he wasn't your priority anymore. In fact, that's why Kell Brook said he left Hearn, because Hearn had too many fighters and he was no longer the priority. So how can you turn around and talk about loyalty? Come on. Frank Warren used to do that all the time. Thankfully, he stopped with that loyalty nonsense. Loyalty in a sport like boxing is just laughable. Anyway.